Hi everyone. This week's resume review video is for somebody that has a lot of experience working in sales. And unlike the previous videos where I go through section by section, I'm actually going to focus on a couple of things that I think will be most applicable to anyone who's looking at maybe reformatting or restructuring their resume. So let's get started. I'm going to start by focusing on the formatting. I noticed immediately that this person chose to utilize paragraphs and then added some bullet points to really highlight the achievements or the callouts that they thought were most important. And stylistically, that is totally okay. I personally have a slight preference for just utilizing bullet points because there were a lot of really great nuggets within the paragraphs as well. And I also think as a job seeker, my job is to make sure that whatever it is that I want to highlight or convey to the recruiter or hiring manager is as easily digestible and searchable as possible. So, what does that actually mean in practice? Let's take a look here. This first paragraph is the summary of who this person is. And immediately, what I want to do is look at what are the most important points. The first two sentences are all about his experience in sales across different industries, from small to mid level businesses, and then across different verticals as well. So maybe that's exactly how we start, right? This person has an experience in sales, in the small to medium size businesses across four verticals, right? There's a metric, and we also explain exactly what it is that we're thinking about. And we can still include examples. Just because we're condensing doesn't mean we don't stay specific. The second point that I really want to highlight here is this idea of him having tons of experience with lengthy and complex sales cycles. The sentence itself says, due to the complexity of the transportation product and the numerous stakeholders within the companies, the sales cycle has typically been 5 to 18 months. Now, what sets this person apart is their ability to close sales in these long times. So, my suggestion would be to push that right to the forefront. So, maybe we say closed sales with lengthy cycles, right? And then you can explain why the sales cycles are so long. And then finally, the last part is here is about prospecting, and that's obviously super important in any type of sales job. What I would also consider is taking some of these key metrics that he's identified and pulling it into the third and maybe adding a fourth point if there's something really great to highlight. So immediately to me, it reads a little bit easier and it also pushes the most important information right up front. The second thing that really caught my eye was a sentence that was in this first experience. The last sentence here says, in the first 4 months, prospected in excess of 60 businesses using Dynamics 365 CRM for lead input and tracking. What I really liked about this is this formula that this person followed. They started with a task, they added some context and scale, and then they also added tools and suites or softwares that they are very familiar with. It automatically demonstrates their area of expertise. And especially if you don't have room or if you don't feel like you have enough software or technical capabilities to create its own section within your resume, this is a great way to still show that you know the tools that are required for your job. The last thing I wanted to bring up was specific to the last paragraph and section of bullets here. What I really immediately loved was the amount of metrics that I got. 5,000 to 55,000 within the first year of implementation, so I know exactly the impact that this person has made. We also know what that actually means at the larger level. They exceeded revenue targets by 15% or increased membership by 200%. These metrics are really strong and tells a really compelling story. What I think would make it even stronger is thinking a little bit more about the qualitative stuff as well. What did you do that contributed to these metrics? There's some hints of that within the bullet points and also within the paragraph. So, for example, they took an active role in the RFP process. That to me feels not specific enough, not granular enough. What role did you take? Did you research the companies? Did you write the RFP? Did you scope out what it is that you need to convey? Did you edit it? Because all of those tasks are very different and they all could have had a very large impact on the metrics that were highlighted. If you continue reading on, we see that type of high level task being mentioned, right? So, developed revenue generating strategy. What were those strategies and how did you go about developing that? Or created and implemented a business development strategy. So I would think about how to really marry the qualitative and the narrative with the actual metrics themselves to make every single bit of your white space really matter. So let's quickly review some of the key things that we talked about here. The first is, how do you make sure that you're parsing out information for the recruiter as simply as possible, keeping in mind that the most important tasks should always be at the forefront of what it is that you're showing them. Then the second thing that we talked about was using the formula of task plus context plus tools to really demonstrate your know-hows. And then finally is thinking about how you're going to take the actual implementation pieces or the task-oriented things and then marry it with the actual metrics to show the overall impact of those tasks. If you have any questions or any feedback, any strong opinions that you don't agree with, please leave them in the comments below. I will be back with another resume review soon, and I will see you all later.